Hey everybody, welcome to the Latino Conservative. My name is Andrew Alvarez and I'm your host for this podcast. We've got a lot to talk about this week, a whole lot, specifically what's happened with the Supreme Court of the United States. It was a big week and big beginning of the week. Everything from New York gun laws to freedom of religion. And of course, we know Roe versus Wade. All of that coming up on the Latino Conservative. But first, a word from our sponsors. Guys, if you haven't used Chime, if you don't know what Chime is an online banking account, but it's a real banking account. You get a credit builder account that is similar to a prepaid credit card, except it is reloaded with your direct deposit. Now, the way that works is you set direct deposit go up to your credit builder account. You get this green metallic card, and whatever your direct deposit is, that's your spending limit. The more you send in your direct deposit, the higher your spending limit, and you know that creditors like that. I've got an affiliate link on my website, thelatinoconservative.com. It helped me personally improve my credit score 100 points in a month. That's huge, guys. You know, a lot of car dealerships, when you go try to buy a car, say you can't buy a car because the banks don't want to lend you money because you have no credit. This is the perfect way to get that started. So go check out thelatinoconservative.com. Right on my front page, there's a green banner there for Chime. Great. So let's move on. What do we have going on with the Supreme Court of the United States? There's New York gun law, first one. New York State Rifle and Pistol Associations, Inc. versus Bremerton, the superintendent of New York State Police. So basically what happened here is New York had placed additional restrictions on gun owners who wanted to carry their guns. So not only did they have to pass rigorous standards, which is New York's right as a state, not doubting that at all. But what they've had to do is the citizens that wanted to carry guns or own guns, they had to pass one set of standards. Okay, great. But then if they wanted to carry their guns, they had to pass a whole different set of standards. So they placed additional restrictions on firearms other than just owning them. Double standards, extra standards. You know, the Constitution is set up. One way you can look at it is you don't, the whole double jeopardy clause to where you don't get charged twice. Well, this is kind of like that. There's no other constitutional right that was set up like that. And New York had that clause in their own state laws, basically saying, we're going to tell you if you can carry your guns or not. That's it. Really what it is. And we all know how socialist, how liberal New York is. They want to control everything. Now, granted, the 10th Amendment gives them rights, gives the state of New York rights to make laws for themselves. Any law that isn't covered by the United States, U.S. Congress, any law that isn't covered by the U.S. Constitution is allowed so long as it is constitutional by the state's law. Plain and simple. But they're going above and beyond. They're giving another amendment to the amendment. The Second Amendment says, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Let me repeat that. I know this part. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Now, I'm from Texas. I know you're going to start, some people are out there going to start talking about Uvalde shooters. Well, we've had one. Okay, we had two big shootings at schools in Texas. Uvalde and Santa Fe. People forgot about that. I live right around the corner from Santa Fe. It takes me 5 minutes to get there, that high school. But the amendment says the right of the people. Doesn't say the right of the militia, doesn't say right of the government, doesn't say the right of the military, the police. It says the people. That's it, plain and simply. You know what New York's law did not do? They're very restrictive laws that basically keeps law-abiding citizens from keeping and bearing arms. Did not prevent the New York subway shooter. That we're still not talking about, guys. We're still not talking about the New York subway shooter. Why? Because he's a black man and the media doesn't want to do that. because he is not a righty. He is not a conservative. This dude was very liberal. He shot up the subway in New York yelling racial slurs. We're not covering that because it doesn't meet the standards for the media. New York's gun law didn't prevent that. New York's gun law didn't prevent the Buffalo shooting that happened either. In fact, recently, a few mass shooters were just stopped by law-abiding citizens carrying guns, which tells me again, the best way to stop a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. So moving on, next topic. Here we go. That's just one. We've got a few more to go. Got to get some tea on this one. Latino Conservative mug available on my website, thelatinoconservative.com. So the Supreme Court sides with a coach over prayer on the 50-yard line after football games. So I'm not sure if you've seen this. There was a coach in Washington, Coach Joseph Kennedy of Bremerton School District, who would, after games, go out into the 50-yard line and would kneel and offer prayer. That was his right. Some parents, I don't even think there were parents that got upset. It was some people that obviously they were liberal, very liberal, because it's Washington, a very liberal state. They got upset because they had to witness it. You know, somebody offering a prayer hurt their feelings. They made claims like, well, if this coach is offering prayers and other players are joining them, pretty soon these other students are going to feel compelled to go join this prayer. And no, it's never the case. The coach never asked a single person to go do that. The players did it on their own. And it's their free will to do so as well. You know, schools have for decades, since the 50s and even 30s, I want to say, if you really want to look back into it, the cross was taken out of the schools in about 1920-ish era and replaced with the flag. Okay, the flag is patriotic. It looks nice. I love the flag, don't get me wrong. But people have been trying to take God out of church since the 20s, if not before. And this coach was practicing his First Amendment right. So right away, people were talking about separation of church and state, because that the Supreme Court sided with this coach in a 6-3 decision. They're saying that the Supreme Court isn't separating church from state anymore. Well, quite honestly, they're wrong. The Supreme Court is enforcing the First Amendment. So justices that dissented with this decision, Sotomayor, Breyer, and Kagan, I guess they don't like freedom of speech or even religion for that fact. This guy was practicing his freedom of speech and freedom of religion. Others did the same and joined him, and they got upset. The cool thing about this is, what I really like is the way this coach handled this was he petitioned his district courts first, started from the bottom. He did the process. You know, everybody says, trust the process. This guy did that. He started from the bottom and then went up all the way from there, finally made the Supreme Court, and they said, yep, he can do this. Because this coach was fired, placed on administrative leave, fired, you know, all that good stuff. So they sided with him. Kudos to you, Mr. Joseph Kennedy. So big one. More tea on this one, guys. I got to get some more tea on this one. Roe v. Wade. That happened last Friday. Friday just passed a few days ago. Today is Monday, the 27th. This ruling was handed out Friday, the 24th. And I think they did this strategically on that date, so people had time to marinate over it on the weekend. But there's another reason why. And I didn't tell you this next topic that I'm going to talk about after this. I think it all has something to do with this topic I'm about to talk about. That's not Roe v. Wade. So here we go. Roe v. Wade. What didn't it do? Federally, it didn't ban abortion. It did not. Did not take away anybody's rights. In fact, Roe v. Wade should not have been a thing to begin with. The justices all agreed that the case law was very poorly written. Even the late Ruth Bader Ginsburg said that that law was faulty. She knew it. She was very liberal, on the liberal side, which I keep saying that, but judges shouldn't be conservative or liberal. They should be right based on the law. Supreme Court has turned into Congress. I mean, let's just be flat out about it. But what Roe v. Wade does is it takes abortion rights and gives them back to the states. And what I mean by rights, I mean that the right to choose if abortion is legal or not legal. It gives it back to the state where they should have been to begin with. But what it doesn't do, again, it doesn't outright ban it. Now, I know that some states automatically have set trigger laws to go into effect right away. I get that. It's not my call. There's about 13 states that went into effect right away, 10 to 13. Somebody fact check me on that. And there's other states that are working on those laws. Altogether, there's going to be about half of the states that allow abortions and half of the states that don't. Here's the thing. If the pro-choice, so to say, and I'll leave it at that, if the pro-choice activists and the pro-choice party, which is the Democratic Party, really wanted to codify and ratify Roe v. Wade and make it into law, federal law, they missed their chance. They had the opportunity to. They had the opportunity to when they had the supermajority back when Obama was a president. He could do that because he had Congress, he had Senate, and he had the court. But you have judges like Ruth Bader Ginsburg that opted to not retire. She wanted to hold that power that she had. She wanted to keep that paycheck coming in. Even though she was coming towards the end of her life, she knew it. She didn't want to give up her power. She could have had a non-conservative replacement. Could have been it. They could have codified this, or they could have not had this choice that they had right now. But she, like many other Democrats, like most other Democrats, wanted to hold on to that power. There's even been some companies, and I can't blame them at all, that it's their choice. They say, if you live in a state that makes abortion legal after this ruling, they will pay for you to go in and have an abortion. They will pay travel expenses and medical expenses. I've seen that already. Dick's Sporting Goods is one of them. I can't say that they're not allowed to do that. If they want to do that, more power to them. It's not my choice. But the left missed their chance. What they're doing now is getting violent. There's never a need for violence in this. Even Joe Biden himself said, don't be violent. That's like the one thing that I agree with everything that he's done. Well, I will say this. Joe Biden has really unified the country because we all want Donald Trump back. But either way, these companies that are offering these benefits, extra benefits to women to go get an abortion, let me ask you all this. I believe in equality. So will you offer something similar to men, like pay for them to go have a vasectomy? Vasectomy isn't covered under Obamacare. It's not. Very few healthcare plans actually cover it because it is an elective procedure. That is not considered medical procedure. Go figure. But you see all of these women posting memes about make mandatory vasectomies happen. Mandatory vasectomies in men. We didn't get it paid for. Women had abortions paid for, whether through their insurance plan, through Obamacare, or through Planned Parenthood. It got paid for, or it was really cheap. So another opinion I have on that is states that allow abortions. Again, that is your right. That is your right. If you want to allow abortions, you as a state want to allow abortions. I believe that you should also allow men to opt out. Women can opt out of financial responsibilities of having a baby. So men should have the opportunity to opt out as well of the financial responsibility of paying child support. Now, I pay my child support. I, quite frankly, would not have it any other way. Me and my ex-wife, we have a great relationship. My kids are doing freaking phenomenal. And I would have it no other way. But I do believe that if men want to opt out, they should. Now, here's the argument that you're going to get. Well, they can always sign away their rights. Okay. But it's never without the mother's permission. Also, you have these cases where men will pay child support for years and years and years and years, and then find out the baby wasn't theirs. Get a DNA test, and then confirm that the baby wasn't theirs. They will never get that money back. It's just an oops, I'm sorry. I think there needs to be more protections for men in that case. In states that don't allow abortion, I think we need to stiffen it up a little bit. If you want to ban abortions, then maybe, just maybe, we make the fathers, once the paternity is determined, responsible for half the medical bills from the time pregnancy is discovered until birth. So half the medical bills of the mother. After that, resume child support or assume child support as normal. So here's what I think that those two would do. You know, we live in a hookup phase. I hate to say it like that, but we live in a hookup phase of our lives. We do. As a country, as a world, people are all about that hookup. Let me go get somebody. Let me go do that. You get the point. If we put a little extra responsibility on either parties, I think we'll start looking at that difference. You know, maybe having protected sex instead of going without protection. Maybe being a little more discriminate about who we actually lay with on both sides. Maybe I'm wrong. Who knows? My personal opinion on this. I believe in pro-life. I am a pro-life activist. However, and I know I might lose a little conservative sponsorship on this, but my mom was a midwife growing up in the state of Texas. She was certified. She centered around home deliveries with parents who couldn't afford a hospital. That's why they hired her. She did so many of them for free. I can't even count. And I think the max she ever charged was like $200, $500, something like that. Plus, you know, the cost of the supplies. And that's it. That much the cost to have a baby at home. She was even featured way back when in the Corpus Christi Caller Times. Big old, you know, that insert that they put in, that's like an extra section of the paper. She was featured on that big old news cover article on her. I remember one baby specifically. This baby had no chance of survival outside of the womb. This baby had a condition called anencephalic. Well, and since she was targeting and helping out low-income families, a lot of the luxuries that people have nowadays, like ultrasounds, they weren't a thing. They were not a thing. In fact, that technology was still in its infancy way back then. I remember her getting excited when she had her sonograph, which was basically like a stethoscope on steroids. They had a little plunger thing that she would put on the mother's belly, and it had a speaker and it amplified it. That was the extent of the technology. She would take the mother to prenatal care at one of the women's clinics down in Victoria or Rockport or wherever she was to get prenatal care. But she would do monthly visits, and then the visits would increase the further along in term that this mother came along. But this baby, this anencephalic baby, had no brain. Not a condition that was discoverable, but it had a heartbeat because it was hooked up to the umbilical cord. So, had this been discovered early on, when it could have been discovered, I believe this baby should have been aborted. 100% fully believe that. This baby had no chance of survival outside of the womb. And it put the parents through turmoil, carrying this baby to term, feeling it move, and then having to watch it die in front of them right after birth. I saw pictures of the baby. The head was caved in because it had no brain, no skull there, and it was blue because it wasn't breathing after that, after the umbilical cord was cut. Other examples, I think the term is endoscopic, or basically where the egg doesn't move past the fallopian tubes. That can kill a mother. I think that should be terminated as well. 6 weeks isn't good enough. I believe in the 15 week, because by then the mother has missed a period or two, and they know. By then they know they've got the morning sickness. They got all these signs. If you keep it at 6 weeks, keep it at time of diagnosis. I say diagnosis like it's a bad thing. Keep it at the time of discovery. When you discover that you're pregnant, the clock starts then. You got 6 weeks. Or 15-week pregnancy. One of the two. I think there should be a little more time. So that's my speech on that. So yes, I believe in pro-life, but I believe there should be very few exceptions to that. More tea. Give me a second. Okay, so while we were sleeping on this, everybody was worried about Roe v. Wade, about all of that happened. Everybody was hooting and hollering, yay, boo, whatever you want to do. We were asleep at the wheel, or we had those Kentucky horse blinders that you see in the Kentucky Derby so the horse can only look ahead. We were focused. Democrats started fundraising on this platform alone. Republicans, I even got Republicans sending me emails, fundraising on this platform. But what happened? We heard about it a little bit, not that much. We started throwing a name out there called the Rhino. We started throwing that name out there, and then that's it. Roe v. Wade happened, and then we all went to bed. That's it. So, Joe Biden just signed into law some sweeping legislation that is labeled as bipartisan, but it's not. Gun safety legislation that includes red flag laws. It was sponsored by a rhino, and I will call him a rhino at this, named John Cornyn of Texas. My home state. I voted for the guy. John Cornyn, you're a disappointment. Let me tell you what you just did. You allowed violations of our 4th and our 14th Amendment, constitutional amendments. We're over here fighting and saying, yay, abortion was never a constitutional right. At the same time, you are stripping away our constitutional rights by allowing these red flag laws to go into effect, by sponsoring these red flag laws. 4th Amendment, in case for those of you who don't know, is protection from illegal search and seizure. 14th Amendment is due process. Basically saying that the authorities can't come in and look for stuff in your stuff without your authority or without probable cause. Probable cause has to be reasonably articulable and have a real cause. Search warrants have to be getting for the most part. That's why a cop cannot just go in and search your car when they stop you unless they see like drugs or paraphernalia or alcohol on the car seats. They can't just say, I'm gonna search your car. They can't do that. They have to ask. They can't just come into your home and look for stuff without asking. These red flag laws allow them to do that. The 14th Amendment says that you have the right to due process. All of that includes, basically that you have the right to stand up for yourself. You're innocent until proven guilty, in other words. All of that's being taken away now. So what that means is anyone who doesn't like somebody, it could be because of their political views, could be because of their sexuality preference. It could be because they don't like the way they smell. They could say, I feel threatened by them, so go take away their guns. That's it. They could say that. That's what a red flag law is. That opens up a lot of doors. Red flag laws will cause shootings. What's going to happen is you're going to get somebody who is an extreme right activist, because you got extreme on both left and both right. You do. You're going to get somebody who's extreme right, and then you're going to have them approached by the police because somebody reported them and saying, hey, bring us your guns. They're going to say no over my dead body, and then stuff's going to go down. Plain and simply, that's what's going to happen. However, the intent of it is disguised as saying people who make threats online, people who have threatened to commit suicide, threatened to go shoot up a place, threatened to incite violence, we're going to take away their guns and keep guns out of their hands. So, what about Chuck Schumer? I feel threatened by him. He is threatening Brett Kavanaugh, and the Supreme Court justice is saying, you have unleashed a whirlwind. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what's coming down the pipeline, stuff like that. I feel threatened because he is threatening those justices. I feel threatened for them, and he is directly threatening my liberty by doing that because I know he wants to pack the court. Maxine Waters, same thing. She has flat out said, if you see any conservative out in public, make a stance, push them back, cause violence, go riot. She has said all that stuff. And she just recently said that again when Roe v. Wade was overturned. She just said that. She said basically to hell with the Supreme Court, which means to hell with our democratic country, which is technically a republic, constitutional republic. AOC has even made some disparaging comments. So what'll happen if we start red flagging these people? Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, Maxine Waters, Eric Swalwell even. I feel threatened by him because he is cohorting with the Chinese spy, Chinese honeypot. So what happens? Do they just brush those under the table because they're not conservative and we are? Or will they actually do something about it? I could tell you, they ain't gonna do jack. Nothing. Because they are Democrats. And they're held to a total different standard. What's right for them is right for them. What's wrong for us is right for them. They're above the law. It's been proven time and time again. So, guys, thanks again for listening to me rant and rave. If you've seen me look over here, I've been looking at my TikTok live feed going on, seeing some comments that go up every now and then. Cool. Go follow me on TikTok at tx.latino.conservative. Go check me out there. I post videos pretty regularly. If you're on TikTok, hey, hit that follow button wherever it is and look for content pretty regularly. You can also follow me on YouTube. Look up the Latino Conservative. I post pretty regularly. Just had a new setup here, so it looks a little bit different. No more green screen. That's gone. I have it still, but it's gone. I'm not using it anymore. I'm just checking this out, see how this is with the new season that I'm launching. Again, guys, thanks for letting me rant and rave. Hit that like, follow, subscribe button, sign up for alerts. Visit thelatinoconservative.com. We'll check you next time.